like attracts like. And so sometimes people hide inside of the mask of what they want people to see, whether they're conscious or unconscious of it or not. So whatever man is in your life, that should be a thermometer or a gauge to share with you where you really are on the self-worth level. Because there's people who feel unworthy in some aspect, but then they'll overcompensate. They'll like work really hard to not face the thing that they haven't really faced. And so now what they do is they'll hide in the titles, they'll hide behind the money, they'll hide behind the work, they'll hide behind a lot of these things. But whatever, because listen, like attracts like, as above, so below, as within, so without. So if you attract a man doesn't really know who he is, and you're trying to get him to come up, and then all of a sudden if you really check in with who you really are, not what you show people, that will be a gauge, and you'll see yourself in an outward reflection in that man, like because you can't see the picture while you're in the frame. So the only way for you to see what's in the frame is what continuously shows up, because we're the most powerful magnets in the world. So if something just keeps showing up the same way, how do I keep dating the same kind of man? It's because it's who you are. That's how you're vibrating inside of your own vessel.
Welcome to It's Not What You Think, the podcast that takes you on a transformative journey to rewrite your story of greatness and reawaken your soul's purpose. I'm your host, Celine DaCosta, a subconscious mind expert, master coach, and believer in the limitless power and magic that lives within all of us. My intention in this podcast is to propel you into your next level of success so that you are free to create the life that your heart most desires. Through deep, actionable insights, personal stories, and world-class guests, I'll provide you with the tools, strategies, and resources you need to unlock the fullest expression of who you're meant to be in this lifetime, so that you can consciously design a reality that is beyond what you could have ever dreamed of. Join me on this journey to personal growth and evolution, and let's live our lives in accordance with our highest soul's calling. This podcast is your weekly check-in to help this path become more simple, obtainable, and fun. Thank you for tuning in today, and now let's dive in. Welcome back to another episode of It's Not What You Think. I have a very inspiring guest with me today, Garrain Jones. I met him actually through a good friend of mine, Ashley, a while ago. One of the things that's felt really present for me lately is when it comes to the podcast is I want to have more conversations around love, business, love, and just holistically who we are, why we show up the way that we do in both of these topics and beyond. And I asked her to connect me with a man who's successful in business, who is happily married, who's also a father, because today I want to have a conversation from the masculine perspective of what that means and what are the different ways of looking about it, especially for us ladies out there. So welcome, Garrain. I would love if you could formally introduce yourself to anyone who has not met you before, and then we'll get started.
Yeah, so my name is Garrain Jones, and I am a powerful force of love and freedom, inspiring bigness within myself and the world. And I'm just, first and foremost, I just want to say thank you for just even that reflection, because I feel really seen right now. And then two, for being brave enough to create a platform like this so stories like mine can have wings. I just want to acknowledge you for that and just say thank you. Where do we start? We'll go back to 2011 when I was living in my car. It was the lowest point of my life. And I have a daughter right now who's 22, a daughter who's 2.5, and a son on the way. But I couldn't take care of my daughter. I couldn't take care of myself. I was $250,000 in debt, living in my car for 2.5 years. My girlfriend had just broken up with me because I couldn't take care of my life. And that was my rock bottom. Like I literally tried to take my life twice, and it was at 3:43 in the morning, August. And I just remember just crying out, okay, okay, I'm tired of fighting. I don't want to fight anymore. I want to be healthy. I want to be happy. I want to be surrounded by nothing but positive people. I just want to inspire people. And I want to make a bunch of money, but I want the money to represent something that I passionately believe in that I would do for free. Just show me a sign. I had no idea that only 5 days later, I would be at a gas station in Inglewood, California, and a homeless guy walks up to me and asks me for money. And I said, "You have more money than me." And the homeless guy says, "Change your mindset, change your life," and walks away. Now, I've heard self development, self help words before, but it was something about the words and the energy that was behind the words that created a conscious interrupt that interrupted my entire way of living. And I felt it through all of the vibrations in my body. Change your mindset, change your life. So if my life is the way that it is, it's because of how I've been thinking. So every single day since that moment, and it's been close to 14 years now, anytime I don't want to do something, but I know that it's valuable for me, I always say, change your mindset, change your life. And I have taught myself how to integrate the opposite. And at first, it started really small with normally I don't like to take normally I was taking the escalators, change your mindset, change your life. So I'm going to take the stairs. Normally I use gel soap, change your mindset, change your life. So I'm going to use bar soap. That took me from chasing and sleeping with all kind of women to change your mindset, change your life, chasing a better version of myself, going to the nightclub every single night, then going to leadership seminars. So I redirected my entire life 14, 13 and a half, 14 years later. I have retired my mom, best-selling book, spoken in over 98 countries all over the world, impacted more than 2 million people, and have 3 seven-figure businesses. And it's not about the money, it's about somebody who was in the darkest stages of his life who is willing to do something different with the same circumstance, which is the whole philosophy of change your mindset, change your life, and then learn all of these skills for why I was doing what I was doing that now has me fully embodied, a fully divine, masculine, committed, and devoted husband, an extraordinary father, and an extraordinary businessman who builds people up for a living and not tears them down. And that was a summary of my story.
Mm, beautiful. Change your mind, change your life. You know what was coming through for me when you were saying this and the topic, that we shared, because I know this conversation can go in so many different ways.
Tell me.
And I'm so curious about this. I want to talk about this, which is, one of the things what was coming through intuitively for me was I talked to a lot of incredibly successful, beautiful, strong women. There's tons of them, around me, my clients, my friends, and what I've noticed, a pattern, a collective pattern that I've noticed, simmering out there is, I'm sure you've heard this one, that, oh, there's no good men out there, or the ones that are good are taken, and blah 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 blah. And knowing what you're saying, and knowing that, like, within myself as well, as I've been going through a really profound journey of rewiring my mind in that aspect of life and trusting the masculine again, is that's the mindset that then creates the reality. But I'm curious on your take
I'm
on
already loving
why
where this is about
this
to go.
is. What the fuck is going on? Can you
Yeah,
break this shit for us? Please
100%.
break it.
Um, all the ladies out there, and by the way, 94% of my clientele is powerful, driven women. So I coach this literally every single day at a very high level. Um, I'm going to take you all the way back. But before I do that, The invitation is for every woman out there is to not think with your mind. It's to allow yourself to put your hand on your heart, left hand on your heart, right hand on the other. And before I share what I'm about to share, just quickly close your eyes. Everyone, take a deep breath in your nose and out your mouth. In your nose and out your mouth. Last one. In your nose and out your mouth. Okay. With your eyes closed while you are listening from your heart, there is nothing that you have to do. Your magic and your power is in your essence and is in your being. And every time you are in the doing energy, you are in the masculine. And so if you're in the masculine energy, it is very difficult to attract polarity because it literally takes you out of your nature. And so how I'm going to flip it on its head is I'm just going to take it all the way back. And this came to me in a meditation. I'm not going to say it's right. I'll just say every time I share this with the woman while she is in her heart, tears are flowing and she feels like coming back home to herself. So if you can listen from the place of your heart, knowing that there's nothing you need to do in this moment, just by listening can create a profound restoration inside. Women from the beginning of time had to come up in a unhealthy masculine world. And they have duplicated that energy. But because they are women, they are calling that feminine. But if you had to come up in a masculine world and it was an unhealthy masculine energy, then the majority of women are harnessing an unhealthy masculine inside of them. And here is what I think happened. When man saw how powerful women were without the need to do anything, they could give birth. They had this powerful intuition. I think the unhealthy masculine man was threatened. And when an unhealthy masculine is threatened, they will do anything to push a person down. They will call them names, and just death and life are at the power of the tongue. And so our words are coded with something. I feel in the true depths of my spirit that the original kings, not in title, but in energy, are actually women. But when men found out just how powerful they called them queens, which is beneath the king. And I truly do feel that a woman should never be beneath a man. She should be beside a man. And so every time a woman is saying to a man, I want my king to rise, I truly do feel she's unconsciously talking about herself because she hasn't risen in her own authentic power and yelling at a man to do something that is actually not his job to do, because when a woman rises, the men follow. Womb, man. You heal the womb, it gives birth to the man. And I feel that when women keep attracting these kind of men is because their womb is not healed. And that's why when a woman is reading a book, a man will change himself and read that book. But if she feels devalued inside of herself and the need to prove and the need to do things and the need to create all of these exterior walls, it takes her further and further and further away from nature as she was designed, Mother Nature. It takes her further away. So the restoration of remembering who you really are. And there's nothing you need to do. And the power is in your essence. The blessings come from the essence. The intuition comes from the essence. And if you can choose that feminine essence, the caliber of man that you attract will be your mirror. Now just take that breath in and breathe it out. Flutter your eyes open. You heal the womb. It gives birth to the man. Womb, man. Take it the other way. We're living backwards. Everybody wants to be everybody else. But when nature is restored, it will always flow. And flowing is feminine.
That's some good juice. I'm going to drink that multiple times. Thank you. That's really
You're very
potent.
welcome. You're very welcome.
And, you know, part of my role here as the interviewer is I'm poking holes. I've got my good poking. It's because what I wonder, that was beautiful, and I received that. And I noticed in the back of my mind, there was a little critical voice
Yeah.
that said, if I don't have to do anything as a woman, then how am I going to be a successful businesswoman? And then there was that other voice underneath that little shadow that's like, easy for him to say, he's a man.
Oh, but who's also married to an extremely powerful woman.
Touche.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So I coach this every single day so I can speak directly into this.
Yes.
Men, and I'm talking about masculine men, men who know who they are, men who are successful, men who are grounded in their true vibrational truth, don't want a woman at home who's in her masculine. They don't. So that's why a lot of masculine women start attracting these weak men. And you're like, I just want him to rise. And I want to, yes, because a lot of masculine women are taking the space where he should be. But that person is not going to take it because he was probably raised by his mom or something like that. So the thing is, when my wife is out in the world and she's building, she had a $500,000 business a year before I even met her. When she's out in the world, she's building. When she comes home, she's my wife. It's a completely different person. So she's learned how to integrate being a wife at home and out in the world, building a business and creating and inspiring people and everything. And she does it really well. Now, it's going to take a lot more work and a lot more effort. But you can either have your car washed at Exxon or you can have it detailed. A little bit more time, a little bit more effort, a little bit more money, but the way that it looks is completely different. So with Blair, when she comes home, she literally has to drop in and says, work hat off. I'm Garrain's wife. And there is a submissive energy. There's a surrendered energy. And it's not like, oh, Garrain, I submit to you. It's not that. There's an order inside of the house. It's called divine order. God, family, every single thing, everything else. She finds safety inside of God, not me. So when she's looking up at God, I'm looking at her. There's a triangle that completes, and I rise into that frequency. So therefore, she doesn't look to me for safety, but I am a protector and a provider, but without, it's like giving to receive and giving to receive. Who she is when she's in her essence, this is what she does. Hey, Garrain, I think you should go to that party. I don't feel like going to that party. I'm just getting a sense. Something tells me you should be there. I go to the party, and then all of a sudden, the things that I've been praying for happen. So what happens is, it's not that you don't do anything, but if you do something without having the vibration of your being, now what you're doing is trying to take the role of the man. You're trying to take the role of the protector, provider, builder, and all those different things. What I'm saying is, in your being, there's a doing, but the doing doesn't leave your essence. So when my wife is like, hey, I think we should go to Los Angeles. I'm like, I wasn't planning on going on to Los Angeles. She's like, I just had a hit, an intuition. We go to Los Angeles. Next thing you know, I'm at a party with my all time, and I don't even know that I'm at Stevie Wonder's house and somebody invited me. So it's these type of things that happen. So anytime somebody sees me out front, it's actually I'm the one who can harness the energy who never gets tired. Like I don't get tired when I'm building and creating. Her hair starts to fall out and she works so hard, she gets stressed and all these different things. Now it's a different kind of work. The kind of work when the triangle is complete in the house. Her being makes her intuition have things flow through me. So now it becomes a us thing. It's less me, more we. And it is a completely different way to look at it, but that is how harmony, the spirit of harmony works in the house. And she still does things, but she's always checking in who's doing it. Am I trying to prove something? Am I trying to compete? That that right there doesn't work for someone who just, damn, I'm tired. I don't want to have to do what I did to get here. I want to be a mom. I want to. Right now, she's on a sold out all women's retreat that her and her best friend Carly Brown do called Sacred Self Care in Mexico. And she's like, this is what I want to do. I want to help women like feel without the need to like protect themselves. And so it is a completely different way um, that the order works in our house. But man, I am 10 times the person, and we get 10 times the money, 10 times the result because she whispered great secrets in my ear that I wouldn't have normally done, but that comes from the order in the house.
Beautiful. There's two things inside what you're sharing that I'm curious to explore more of. The
Yeah.
one thing that you didn't directly say, but I felt was around this concept that I know is really top of mind for a lot of women of seeking safety in the man, but
Yeah.
actually self providing safety. And, you see the Instagram memes about it and people talk to you about it. But other than my studies with my Tantra teacher, I haven't really understood how women are supposed to know how to self-source safety, especially when you're saying from God. So it'd be really great if you could
Yeah.
illuminate the how. And the
Okay.
second thing that I also heard, that I was also feeling into is whether what happens, for example, in a partnership where the woman is the breadwinner, where she's the one who's earning more. And I think this is something that a lot of people keep under the carpet as well, and it's just not being
Yeah.
addressed, how to like handle polarity and handle
Yeah.
life when there's a discrepancy in finances, like, with the woman being the one that is creating more.
Yeah. This is like what I said. When a woman is in a specific energy, she's going to attract. You got to look at the aspect of the person that is choosing a man that has no finances, that doesn't have his life together, doesn't know who he is, it's not grounded, that doesn't have a vision for whatever. Now, it's possible to explore, but then there is what is the aspect of the woman? And I would get real, real clear on this. Is there any way? This is I'm not assuming, but I would ask, 'cause this is what I do with my clients. What part of you chose that man? Well, like what part of you? If it was the one that was like, I'm attracting, because you'll always attract who you are deep down on the inside. You won't attract your mirror, you won't attract your mask, you won't attract your overcompensation. Because if somebody comes in through what you're really trying to say and you're trying to display who you are, they'll leave because it's not a vibrational match. Like attracts like. And so sometimes people hide inside of the mask of what they want people to see, whether they're conscious or unconscious of it or not. So whatever man is in your life, that should be a thermometer or a gauge to share with you where you really are on the self-worth level. Because there's people who feel unworthy in some aspect, but then they'll overcompensate. They'll like work really hard to not face the thing that they haven't really faced. And so now what they do is they'll hide in the titles, they'll hide behind the money, they'll hide behind the work, they'll hide behind a lot of these things. But whatever, because listen, like attracts like, as above, so below, as within, so without. So if you attract a man doesn't really know who he is, and you're trying to get him to come up, and then all of a sudden if you really check in with who you really are, not what you show people, that will be a gauge, and you'll see yourself in an outward reflection in that man, like because you can't see the picture while you're in the frame. So the only way for you to see what's in the frame is what continuously shows up, because we're the most powerful magnets in the world. So if something just keeps showing up the same way, how do I keep dating the same kind of man? It's because it's who you are. That's how you're vibrating inside of your own vessel. And so what somebody will say was like, no, like I'm an independent and I'm this, I'm that. Yeah, no, I hear all the mass. I hear all the titles that you're giving yourself, but I'm also seeing how life is showing up for you. And so what I would say is, what aspect of you chose, if you are who you say you are, what aspect of you chose someone who's in a lower vibration, who doesn't have themselves, who doesn't know who they are, they're trying to get their bearings. And I would get really real, because in relationships, it's who you really are, what you show people, and what and then there's the other person who they really are, and then what they show people. And so now it's 4 people dating inside of a 2-person container and wondering why they always break, because nobody's actually being real, raw, and authentic. This is who I really am. I'm broke. I don't, if a man would come up and be like, listen, I'm broke, I don't know who I am, and da-da-da, but men, what we do is like, oh, she's reading this book or she's doing like this, I'm going to show her this thing. And then after a while, it starts settling in, kind of like you start up an engine and the engine goes, boom, and then it settles into the drive. And then after a while, you're like, oh my God, I didn't sign up for this. Neither one of y'all showed each other like the actual real truth. And so there's a lot to unpack in the conversation, but these are all things that I unpacked in my own marriage. And we got back to radical truth, radical vulnerability. Here I am. And if you don't want me for who I really am and what I really think, then we're probably not meant to be together.
Beautiful. Wow.
Good questions. Oh, I love it.
I like poking around, like
Yeah,
poking in there. And the piece, I'm still waiting on the instruction manual for the safety thing.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, because you had asked a question, but you asked like 2 or 3 questions.
I know. I
And
know.
one
I
of
was
them-
I was hella curious. I apologize. I ran myself in.
So the safety thing, the kind of person that can choose safety. Blair prays every single day, God, thank you for covering me. Thank you for being with me. It's not the human saying, hey, I'm safe. It's putting it's almost like your gaze in something much bigger than yourself. If the human is saying it, well, then you're going to rely off the body keeps a score. It's like all the traumas, all the triggers. How do I find safety and everything? No, it's not the human asking for safety. It's the spirit inside of you asking to be met by the Spirit, by the great Spirit. God, be with me. And there's a difference, and there's a surrender. So when we say surrender, it's not like, I can't let this go. No, you're operating from the human. There's a surrender in, I don't need to protect myself anymore. I don't need to fight anymore. I don't need to prove, I don't need to seek approval anymore. And that's the most scary place, because I know that women all day long get hit on all the time. Doesn't matter if you're married, that like they get approached by men, they get approached by women. I mean, this is every day since they were like little girls. So it's already domesticated. Like, how do you not protect yourself? So when there's meditation, when there's ceremonies, when there's prayers, whatever intention that you set will always get met. And if you don't set an intention, you're basically rolling the dice with your future, and you're either playing a game of chance or intention. So having an intentional life, or before you go to sleep at night, God, my intention is to find safety within you. Something happens. We pray for everything else. We meditate for everything. I want this 6-figure business, 7-figure business, and all this other stuff. But when it comes to you, I'm like, no, but this is where the worthiness piece comes in. Whatever you fight for, you get to keep. So sometimes people don't even fight for their own safety. They fight for to not be safe. They fight to keep that out.
Mm,
So as long as the heart is blocked, nothing's coming in.
mhm, mhm, mhm.
So it's feeling and getting all the puzzle pieces out of the box first before you can put them together. And so allowing yourself, my intention is to feel safe inside of my own body. Grant me the tools and resources so that I can maintain safety throughout this week. And if that becomes a conversation, and that becomes part of the prayer, that becomes part of your morning rituals, well, anything that you do over time will evolve. It's just not done over time. So it's not, you just do it once. You don't just jump on a horse and just be like, oh, I'm galloping. Or you don't just, you know what I'm saying? It is an instrument to be integrated inside of your vessel. And so it should be treated like someone who really wants to learn how to play the trumpet and they never played the trumpet before, or who really wants to learn a language and they never learned the language before. You've got to immerse yourself in that language, or you can listen to Rosetta Stone at Coffee Bean once a week. I can tell you who's going to learn the language, the one who immerses themselves inside of that.
Beautiful. Yeah, that's one, something that comes alive within me when you say that is it's going back to that change your mind and change your life and how, we invest. One of the behavioral patterns that I've noticed in a lot of entrepreneurs who are engaging in self-sabotage is that they will literally take themselves so far so that they can experience the trauma again. And there's like this unconscious drive that can occur in some people where they will go to the point, that edge of fear so that they can feel their power again, so that they can feel motivated again. And I think this reframe that you're sharing around it, why not make safety your priority? It's you, and how much of the choices and decisions that we make as human beings, especially when we're unconscious, revolve around keeping ourselves safe. And if we can really start to self-resource ourselves, in that safety, then the world is going to meet us in that way, and we become more unfuckwithable. Yeah,
And
it's
I,
that's
and I'm gonna- and I want to speak to this. This is really good because the moment that Blair was making that a priority, she was trying her best. She came from domestic violence, alcohol, drugs, every boyfriend she ever had, fight, fight, fight. I'm like literally the only person who's never even thought about hitting her. So imagine what came up inside. And so my role is to hold for the entire ocean. So she picked a good one because I went through a lot of shit as well. And once I got that, her rage is not a bad thing. Her anger is not a bad thing. All of those things are emotions that have never been held through love and reflected. So I used to, she's so angry and I would project Blair being angry whenever things would come up. And I was like, then I had to remember, I'm like, oh my God, I'm the only person who's never left through that. So she doesn't even know how to operate in that. So this is where we talk about like we over communicate roles, how she can hold for me and how I can hold for her. And so just last week we went through some stuff and everything, and instead of taking it personal, and I'm like, well, just because it's true for her doesn't mean it's actually true. So I could be neutral and just meet her in the emotional realm and not like try to logic somebody who's like literally in their pain child body. And I just reflected everything. Oh my goodness, baby, I can see how you would be so frustrated if you couldn't. And I didn't say the fact that I had no service. I'm in Costa Rica at a retreat. She wanted her buddy now. And so she was so frustrated. And I said, I can see how you would be frustrated. You're contacting me about a friend and I'm not available. That makes so much sense. I'm so sorry that you're feeling that way. I'm not saying I'm sorry I did it because I didn't do anything. And it's actually true for her. And then I just mirrored her and I reflected. And then it was like a couple of days. And then afterwards, she was like, oh my God, that's the first time in my life someone didn't make me feel wrong for how I was feeling. Now I know what that feels like. So my role is to hold for the entire ocean. And that's the power of a woman. The woman, it's literally just like the ocean. They haven't even discovered more than 15% of the ocean, and it's the majority of the world. And so this is how I even view the power of a woman who don't even know her real power. And so I'm just like, okay, how can I hold for the entire ocean? Okay. Well, then I just get I get to be the space. And every time sometimes it'll trigger my little boy, but the more and more we keep rising through communication, what landed, what did, and we effective communication. But the thing that matters the most is, does she feel heard? Does she feel seen? Does she feel felt? And what she's not saying, can I reflect what's going on when what I'm picking up on? And every single time I'll watch her be like this, as it's the first time in her life somebody would stand in it with her and not make her wrong, not make her shut up, not make her say it's too loud, not try to fight her. And so that's my role. I signed up for all of it. Give me every aspect of Blair. That's what I signed up for. Not a muted version, not a stuffed down version, not a mass version, not an overcompensated version. Give me every aspect of even the Blair that you don't even know yet. I want to meet all parts. And the more that happens, the more she starts to ascend in her magical fairiness. Like who she is being right now, it's like the things that people write fairy tales about by. And I was like, yo, I'm learning about the power of woman, not just this woman, of women, witnessing Blair be in her feminine and be held for And then the more that I'm holding for all of it, she falls even more in her feminine. Oh, so but I'm also, remember what I said? You find the safety in God. You look up, the man looks at the woman. The man starts to ascend to where she's looking up. So the man starts rising where she's looking. So then the man has the capacity to hold for all of it because the man is rising into the God frequency.
Mm, that's how he gave you it.
Exactly. Garrain by himself in the human would never be able to do it because there's another power that transcends the duality of the two. There's Blair, there's Garrain, and then there's the transcendent energy. We call it relationship, we call it God. That so when that feels like it's being served, it pulls us both up in a higher frequency, in a different vibration, and the most magical Harry Potter-like things happen all the time. So it's transcending the construct of two ships passing in the night. It is the
Mm,
ultimate form of collaboration. It's what transcends when there's divine order in the house. And when there's divine order in the house, there's something that even that transcends that. And inside of that is a magical world of the most divinely ordered things, money, sex, different calibers of relationship. All of that is like you activate this spiritual ecosystem and then shake up the snow globe. And so all these people and opportunities, monies that start dropping is like the snowflakes in the snow globe. So
mhm,
it's an energy that transcends when the order is natural. But if the woman is out of order inside of herself, you will never find divine order.
mhm. Hmm. So thank you for sharing Blair's story because it inspired me to ask my next question.
Perfect.
You share with her she came from a background of trauma, and when she found you, it was the first time that she was really able to have a different experience, embodied experience. Now, I'm going to
Yes.
be formulating the questions as I'm speaking it out loud. So I apologize if I'm being clunky. But basically, what came up for me is what you were sharing before around how when we are working on ourselves, finding order within ourselves, and the vibration that who we really are is essentially the vibration of the man that we attract. And then you're sharing over here about how Blair had these really traumatic experiences and she was working on herself. And then she was able to attract someone who was able to give her a completely different experience. And I
Who was
suppose
also
that,
broken as well, though.
yes.
I was also there's many variations of me that was broken and we transcended together. Like there wasn't no like this in
Mhm,
her own way where she was also internal brokenness inside of me because I had cheated on every girlfriend I'd ever had. I had slept with married men's wives. I mean, it was just like I didn't even know. I was like, where does this come from? Come to find
yeah,
out, I have a whole lineage of people like, my whole lineage was born out of infidelity. My brother found a letter from my great-great-grandmother, a unopened letter that she was cheating on her husband, and through that, like, there was a baby, and that baby was my great-great-grandfather. So our whole line and every man had cheated, 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 cheated. So she attracted that. So when we met, there was our brokenness. And then we met in an emotional intelligence course. So we were just, I mean, everything was all over the place. And it was the first time in my life I had ever seen a future with any woman I'd ever been with. First time in my life. And I told her on the first date, I can see you being my wife and I can see you being the mother of our children. And she was like, and went to the bathroom, came back. It was like, whoa, you know? And she's my wife. I asked her to marry me 6 months later. Couple months after that, we got married. Now we have a daughter that's 2.5 and another son named Chieftain Wolf Jones on the way in July. I saw it. And so there is a dance, and who I've become as a man, I ascended because of who she was in my life. She ascended because of who I am in her life. And then there's the relationship ascended because we poured into the relationship.
Hmm. Mhm. So I suppose it's really about, because where my little flags were going off was when if you're in a place where you're still working on yourself, and then you meet
Yeah.
someone where they're still working on themselves and it's a lower vibration, because I think there's a lot of spiritual bypassing around this of women who
Oh,
expect these like pure, perfect, crystal, pristine men because they're really working on themselves and vice versa. And I've seen a lot of suffering through that. And it's just, I think there's what I'm hearing as well is just that there is this way of two people to meet, like in their own development, a woman who's still finding safety in herself, a man who's still finding grounding in himself. It's not like they need to be two fully baked cakes in order for them to experience this kind of love and magic. But it's what I'm
right.
hearing is more so they can meet each other in that I'm still working on my selfness
Yeah,
and work towards something bigger to create that ascension, to create that evolution within
for
themselves and
sure.
that healing.
So if a woman is saying something like, I retired my husband and and there you got to be really ask yourself who's saying that, and then to speak more to what you're saying, if a woman then has more money than the man, which I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, you just get to ask yourself, is there anything inside of you that makes you feel good about that?
Mm.
So there's nuances in this. So they can be like, "Oh, I make more than my man. I make more than my man," and then you be amongst because women talk with their women circles very different than they talk openly with other men. And so there's like, "Oh, I make more than my man. Oh, he ain't shit," and then all of a sudden start spreading that black magic and don't even realize what's actually happening. So if there's anything inside of a woman that gets off, and even if it's a speck on I make more than my man, that little speck is an entire universe, and that's what's blocking him from rising.
Mm. Mhm.
Competitive energy is not going to work when union is trying to create itself.
Mhm.
So, I
Mhm.
mean, when I say even a speck, now you can come in and you can see his potential. But man, if a woman speaks life into him, baby, I believe in you. You got this. And da da da. And not like I make more than you. And that is not shared anywhere. It's anything like that. Now, if she's in full integrity and there's no energetic leaks when y'all argue or anything with your girlfriends or anything, and you just happen to make more money at the moment, no problem. But if there's any energetic leaks, that energetic leak is not as small as you think it is, because you're a vibrational being, and what you think is small is actually a giant forest of frequency.
Mm. Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, that completely answers that question from before. That it's not the actual making more that would be the issue. It's the way, it's the shadow. It's where the leakiness is within the
100.
woman that then creates the wobbliness within the union. I like the way you left me on the edge of my seat on that one. And the other piece that came up when you were talking about meeting Blair that I'm curious about, and you said, oh, you just knew she was the woman for you, and within 6 months you proposed and then you got married. This is another piece where I find, even with myself, having been raised Catholic and kind of watching a lot of failed marriages around me. This is a two-part question. Sorry, I'll ask it again if I'm asking too much at
Yes,
once.
I
The
love these
two-part
questions.
the two-part question is, the first one is, um, what I'd love to hear your perspective on what marriage is. And for those people who are like, it's just a legal contract, it's a financial institution. And that whole narrative that I feel a lot of people are giving up on marriage, they're not treating marriage well, they're not taking it seriously because they think it's this whole like matrix thing, design thing, anyways. I would love if you can, yeah, like break that, bust that bubble in the best way that you know how. And then the second question underneath that is from a man's psychology, a man who's, that moment where you're like, it's her. What is happening in the male brain? And because when I was reflecting on that, I put myself in her position. And maybe this is my shit, but yes, it's my shit, as the bubble says. But maybe the way if someone said that to me, I would have been like, you're lying. It's like, how do you know
Yeah.
if
So
that
I
person's
agree.
really being real with that,
Yeah.
as opposed to like a short-term ecstasy because you met at a course and it like vibes are high and you're high on the emotions. Like, how do you discern that?
3 years prior, I didn't have a relationship with my daughter, who was 15 at the time. I started taking all these. This is why I even got in all this work: 10 days silent retreats, 5 days in the dark, masters in spiritual psychology, the communications one, two, three, and four, emotional intelligence, mastery and transformation one, two, and three, insight one, two, and three, long days in the desert, long days in the forest. Like, I've got like crazy training. All of that training came from a deep desire to figure out why my daughter wouldn't talk to me. So I did all of this not knowing that it was gonna change me as a person. I'm just like, my desire was to try to get this woman, that this girl, to talk to me, which is my like really let me in. What is it about me? And there's a guy named Steve Stern. He said, "You're a good-looking guy. It's safe to say you can get any girl you want." And I said, "Yeah." He said, "Get a date with your daughter." She's a girl. Oh my goodness. I never even thought about like trying to pursue her in that way. I've never done that. And meanwhile, I'm surrounded by all these women. And I'm asking, what do women want? I'm asking Muslims, Jewish, Christians. I'm just asking. They're all literally saying the same thing. We want to feel seen in their own way, seen, heard, acknowledged, want to feel safe. All of them. And it was the first time in my life where I literally pursued a woman. Now, fast forward 6 months from that time, which led me into all of this. And it's so interesting how the universe, this universal order, and start training us like puppet masters and according to what we ask. I have never read a book on relationships or love or anything like that, because every time I would read a book before I was conscious, I would attract these things in my life. And I was like, well, I never want to be in a relationship. I'm, I want to be the person that just has a whole bunch of women, because I didn't women didn't like me in middle school and high school, because I didn't start puberty till I was 18 years old. So I was like, I'm 6 foot, almost 6'2", but I was 5'6" for a very long time, even 5'7" when I was 18. So I had this short man complex inside of this tall built body, and I was like, I'm gonna make all these women pay. And so I just sleep around with all these women. So until I read this book called When God Winks. And I read this book 10 times, but I skipped the chapter on soulmates. And then finally, on my way from Brazil, I was like, man, I'll read it. So I'm reading it, and they start talking about making a list. But the list was the attributes of a woman, how you want to feel in the relationship, and the top 5 places where you would meet them. Circle and star the one you feel the most connected to. I normally had 3 things on my list. Oh, exotic, nice legs, and all these different things. And I would get it, and I was like, yo, the freaking attitude. Why is it the same every time? It was the first time. I had done this with business. I had done this with a home. I had done this with all these, but I never did it with a relationship. That I wrote specific coordinates, like putting a specific address in a GPS system. I wrote down 62 attributes. When I got to 5, I was like, "Nah, I'm being too picky." I was like, "Wait a second. I know this woman doesn't exist, but I'm gonna write them down anyway. So if whoever this is, they will have my babies because I was never gonna have kids again. I was never gonna get married." Say whoever has these attributes has a relationship with God, great hygiene, masculine, can easily slip into her feminine, loves traveling, loves fashion, loves reading, loves learning, loves animals. I like wrote down this. It's like a Build-A-Bear. 62 attributes of this impossible person. How I wanted to feel. I wanted to feel like somebody like saw me, like and just like actually cared about the things that I cared about. And then the top 5 places. I had never done online dating. I had never done like emotional intelligent courses, or I'd never done anything like that. And so, but the emotional intelligence course, personal development course, was the thing I circled and starred. I felt the most connected to it. Fast forward, all of a sudden, I'm taking emotional intelligence classes to try to get a relationship, pay attention to the word, with my daughter. Deepening of the heart process. And I'm just cracking open, realizing pain that I had and trauma towards my dad and my mom and being molested and all these. But I had this drive. How do I get a relationship with my daughter? And I'm willing to do anything and take any course. So I go through all of this. Next thing you know, I take my daughter out on a date. Within 2 weeks, she's like, "Daddy, you're different." Next thing you know, instead of just giving her a hug, I wrap my arm around her and I pull her close to me. And even though she looked like she's being uncomfortable, I just looked at her and I was just like, "I'm so And then I kissed her on the forehead and I just watched her go like this. So I'm sharing this, not that part, but I'm sharing my experience of how I'm pursuing on social media. And all of these women around me, the relationships with their dads started changing based off of how they saw me pursuing a relationship. So, what that taught me with the work that I was doing is that all someone needs to see is an example, and they can change something internally, which has them start shifting things. Their dads, their relationships with their dads, these are women that are 30 and 40 years old, started changing based off of what they saw me doing. So I took responsibility of being the most powerful representation of who my daughter will marry one day. And that shifted how I honored and treated women, because there was no example. There was no example of a powerful man that did right by women that I grew up with. No example. So I only could see women through my dad's eyes. Now, my daughter taught me how to see women through my daughter's eyes. So, in the midst of me taking all these courses and cracking open, heart wide open, being vulnerable, my daughter starts cooking for me and doing certain things that no woman. I lived in LA. A lot of LA women don't cook. They do. I couldn't find them. They want to go out to eat. She started cooking for me. Come back from Korea. She was like, "Where's your clothes?" I'm like, "Why?" She's like, "I want to wash your clothes." Something inside of me, it felt so good. I was like, "Damn, I does that." I'm like, "Damn, I would want a woman who does that." And I'm still taking these courses. So in the peak of all these courses I'm taking, I meet Blair. Blair, every time I spoke to her, because we were friends at first, it's something inside of me was like, it was like this little, it was like a vibrational thing. I was like, man, she'll text me, same thing happened. She'll call me, saying, because I was her only friend out in LA. And then one thing led to another, led to another. And all of a sudden, one day, it felt like she became my wife, my daughter, my girlfriend, and all of these range of emotions. And then that same day, she was like, "Hey, I just thank you for being so kind to me." She was like, "You know what? I would date somebody like you." And I'm like me? She was like, I I would date you. And I was like, she was like, "Garrett, has a woman ever asked you out on a date?" I'm like, "No. Garrain Jones, I'd like to take you out on a date." I was like, All right, cool." We go out on a date and we're just having conversation. I look at her and it was like a portal opened up and I could see into the future. I'd never seen no shit like that in my life. There was a vibration in my body that was different than anything I'd ever felt in my life. And whatever this was felt true. And I was willing to bet on it. So I wasn't be like, "Hey, I can see you being my wife," and not really believing it. I was willing to bet on it because it felt vibrationally true. And I spoke into that. 2 weeks after we're dating, I find my old journal that I write all the list of 62 attributes while I'm spring cleaning because she's helping me clean my house. And Blair literally has all 62 attributes, treats me how I wanted to be treated. And I met her at a personal development seminar. I put the specific address in the universal GPS system, and it took me to the route by way of my daughter. That opened up my heart. When I opened up my heart, that's where I met Blair. And every person that I have taught that, what I just shared with you, has attracted just that. They write the list and then they allow the universe, because I wasn't half the things on the list. 62 attributes, I was punching above my weight class. So what I feel God did was, okay, so let me give you the thing that's going to test you and shape you and mold you and develop you so that you can become the entire list. So that's why you'll always meet your match. You'll always meet your mirror. Not what the shell is, who you really are. And then you can evolve from there.
That was the clarity that you received to be like, I'm gonna marry her. And what was your did you have, like, distorted relationship with the construct of marriage before? Did it shift or was it already shifted? Like, what's
Before I
your
was
take on
I'm
what the
yeah,
institution of marriage has done?
I'm never getting but I don't look at marriage as an institution. Like I spent 2.5 years in a French prison. I would always hear people say, they're like, "Oh man, you're on lockdown. You're on lock." The real institution is people's intentions and how they talk about it. And most of the time, I coach this for a living. I mean, nine-figure women and like at the highest level. I work with them in all their relationships. I will tell you, in the very beginning of the relationship, they knew they did not want to be in that relationship. And there was a speck of doubt. And they went against their own intuition at the primitive stage. A couple of years ago, my face was the size of Thanos's from Avengers. I had to go get a tooth extracted. And they were like, "You got to get a root canal." I said, "Root canal? I had one 15 years ago." Well, whoever originally did the root canal didn't get it all the way to the root. So you have 15 years worth of infection that is just now showing up on the surface. So what that tells me, and I had to pay 10 times the price because I didn't have insurance. They had to cut half my jaw, but I had the biggest epiphany. That tells me if at the primitive stage, you're not in full belief, you plant the seed of the belief that you're in. So no matter how glorious it looks, it's always going to match the same feeling that you felt when you planted that seed. You plant good seed, you get good feed. But if you're like, "Oh, I knew I shouldn't have married him. Oh, I knew it wasn't right." And you went against your own thing, 9 times out of 10, that is alive every single time. And every single person that I coach, they're like, oh, I forgot about, I'm literally walking down the aisle saying, I don't know if I should be doing this. And then you went against it. Why? Because we had already spent all this money, because all of our families are here, because of all of these, whatever it is, when you give your power away. But if the power comes back to you, well, then you'll always know. It's about surrendering to the knowing and actually listening to it and allowing yourself to be used in the knowing as a vessel for it to take you where it's wanting to take you, instead of you living outside of nature, which always causes chaos. There was a vibration inside him that was bigger, that held the space for Blair and I. And inside of that, she felt a hint of safety she never felt before. And I just, from there, I had never showed up online. I'd never in my life showed up online because I just, your boy was ruthless back in the day, but I didn't know any better. This is what everybody else does. Nor was there a model to show me what I'm doing. There was no model to show me what I'm doing now. I had to create it in my mind. And when I went Facebook public, every girl I had ever dated, every girl I wanted to date that were just magically always dating somebody, everybody was single. Everybody hit me up. I mean, A-list celebrities, so many people hit me up. So what I knew the tests are going to come. The test, anytime you have a big vision or you want to create something big in your life, it will always unlock the equal of its resistance. So the test of the resistance came from elementary school, middle school, people that I liked in elementary school, middle school, high school, college, entertainment, all of that. They all came at one time. So here's what I did. I drove my Triton into the ground and I said, I am fully committed. Boom! Even more. And it cut off all the weapons of mass distraction, those little tentacle legs, to the point where I can be around a bunch of beautiful women and still hold the dominion of Blair and I together. That was never modeled, but I'm following the vibration of the knowing and allowing myself to be used inside of that knowing, which makes me bigger than my human body.
Hmm. So it sounds like when you went with the Triton, what do you call it? The Triton.
Yes.
Everything, like all the noise just disappeared.
It
And
demagnetized the distractions that normally would always get me.
uh-huh.
And that's how it works. The
Uh-huh.
universe only knows how to get your attention through whatever's connected to your heart. Otherwise, it couldn't get your attention.
That's a good one.
So the moment you're up to something big, you're literally up to something. I have a big vision. I want to create my first $500,000 month. Boom. Oh, you're going to be tested. Here's the thing. Some people see those tests and they try to, no, but I want it easier. Or they try to get away from the test, not knowing that that's actually a part of the vision. It's a part of the whole. I've run 64 miles over a mountain at one time. If you came up to me and say, hey, Garrain, I want you to train me for a marathon, 26.2 miles. I'm going to ask you a few questions. Do you just want to walk across the finish line? Do you want to compete? You want to get top 50, top 25, top 10, top 5, number 1, you want to break a world record. Based off of your vision determines what kind of specified training I'm going to give you.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have a big vision in your life, it's like God says, okay, well, based off your vision, here's the training I'm going to give you. So whatever comes through, the breakup, the breaking leg, the car wreck, family never dying, and whatever you have to overcome, that is all part of your flying lesson so that you can be strong enough and be grounded enough to sustain at your next level. It's all part of the training. People is like, oh man, I get 2 steps ahead and this thing's happened. No, that was part of your training. So if you expect the tests, now they're no longer tests. They're windows of opportunity. They're like little freedom formulas, like little fireflies in the night. It's like, and this comes, they're like, thank you so much, coach. Thank you so much. Thank you for making me better. Thank you for making me wiser. Thank you for making me stronger. And if you can meet every one of those tests with a thank you, as if you know this internal secret and know why you're here. I asked for this test. And if you could be in the frequency of gratitude, and that envelops your body, those tests are less dense on you because it's not happening to you, it's responding to you.
Beautiful. Beautiful. So I have a question for you
Of
that you kind of
course.
answered, but I want the answer.
Okay.
Ready? What is marriage to you?
When there are two souls who want to take the information, because we're just vessels for information. That's where ideas is information, creativity is information. With the two souls, two vessels who want to harmonize information and then build a life together. And so marriage is the agreement. I could care less about just going to the government. But listen, I'll play the game. I don't mind playing the game because I'm always playing the game within the game within the game anyways. So sometimes for me, I need a physical representation and not just be like, oh, hey, I'm just running. Where are you running? I don't know. It's like I like having physical things that can benchmark things. So marriage for me is when two vessels of information come together and they want to build a life of information. They want to amplify creativity. And so, for me, marriage is that when I put that ring, marriage to me is ceremony. And yes, you can create it without signing any government documents. But if signing government documents is an issue for you, but you signed a government document complaining about that while you're on Instagram, which is a government document, maybe it's not a government document. Maybe you're just chicken. Maybe you don't want to maybe you have commitment issues and then you have this is why I've been saying this the entire time. There's who we are or what we show people, and there's who we really are. And then there's the aspect of the shadow self that will look for any way to just be out of something, any way to not commit. Oh, like what's the easiest, the road less the easiest way out? What's the easiest way out? If you find yourself using not being married as a crutch, but deep down inside when you look in the mirror and the truth shows up and nobody's around, can't lie to yourself. There's an aspect of you that doesn't want to be locked into a commitment. That's where your energy leak is, because commitment comes first. It's not all the needing enough evidence, because then you don't even activate the powers of faith. Faith is being able to commit to something or believe in something that you cannot see. So therefore, you take it out of the human and you put it into the spirit. So for me, I cannot truly see the absolute future, but I see my future with my partner, and I am willing to create a ceremony inside of that and lock into the commitment first. For me, that is marriage. It comes with or whatever, and this thing is, listen, I don't mind playing the little charade games, but more than anything, it's ceremony for me. It's a set, like we literally had a ceremony. There was prayer, there was rituals, there was a lot that went into it. And you can create a game that you actually like playing. You don't have to do it like everyone else does it. I just love how we did it. We got married in Turks and Caicos. Well, we got married at some random office or something like that, so that we can go to Turks and Caicos because they can't legally marry you and then do the ceremony. Um, but it was a beautiful, beautiful wedding. I was not prepared to when there was a pastor there, and I put that ring on, and we exchanged vows for what was going to come through me. There was something that happened through me that I didn't even know was there. So that is something that comes through, is what divine marriages, like when people really want to marry and it's really true, and you really want to be with that person, there's a magic sauce that comes through that container called marriage.
Hmm.
I believe, because it happened to
Mm.
me.
Thank you. And why commitment?
Just commitment, period. Let's just take it. Commitment, period, is one of the highest forms of leadership.
Wow. Didn't see that one coming. Okay.
I've been leading high level leaders for 13 years at the highest level, and I see the least committed people being the least successful people,
Mm.
being the least happiest people, because something happens when there's a committed heart. To not commit, meaning I'm going to change, I'm going to change, I'm going to move, you give yourself an out. It's an easy way to it's an easy way to get out. But in commitment, which is one of the highest forms of leadership, through there, you have direction, you have clarity, there's confidence, there's grit, and I'm listing all of the things that are the value that come from commitment. Clarity, focus power, staying power, resilience, grit, and all of these things are needed to be able to evolve over time, no matter what season you're in. And the least committed people are the ones who get broken the most. The people who don't have that committed muscle. They might commit to negativity or commit to their ego instead of committing to something that could actually support them in moving forward in life.
Mhm.
And so when I'm even looking to bring people on my team, I find out things about their past. Okay, this person quit this job, went to the next, quit this job, went to the next, quit this job. And I can tell them that you do not have a committed muscle in your body. You're not coming on my team that has leadership excellence in damn near every single thing that we do. And people want to know, they're like, how do y'all do that? There's people that come to my retreats that are already doing epic stuff, but then they're like, but I've never seen powerful leaders work with other powerful leaders. Typically, there's leaders who attract a bunch of followers, but like leaders who attract a bunch of leaders, completely different playing field. So there's people that come to my containers just to see how I work with the other guardians and the leaders, and how I energetically get out of the way and put other people in positions of power, and how I edify. I got all of those skill sets by committing to the process. And that's what shaped me over time, because I was willing to weather any storm. Now I can weather any storm. Now my foundation, you put me in any container in front of anyone on any stage at any time, I will never lose a sense of self, because the commitment has taught me how to have a strong foundation, and any house that you build on a strong foundation will weather any storm. That's why.
Hmm. So I love this because you know, it went from I get what you're saying as in connection to marriage, but what I really love about it is that this element, this trait of commitment, it extend far, far, far beyond that. And that helps me understand why I have so many of, you know, my brothers who are like in a happy marriage and they say to me, "Oh my God, when I got married, everything got better." Because there's like this sense of it was really harnessing that in addition to everything you've shared, but it's also like strengthening that pillar of commitment made them better men, made them more influential, made them better leaders. So I love the way that you've just connected something that's here with leadership and just how to show up in the world.
How you do anything is how you do everything, and I don't do anything unless I know it's going to, like, really make a profound impact with everything in my life. So therefore, it increases the value in why I'm doing it. It's not just marriage. That same commitment is the same kind of person who could be committed to an idea when nobody else believes. And then all of a sudden, I just come to the team and I was like, I got this idea to create artist power and like activate the confidence and true authentic expression in people. They're like, yo. And I was like, and I want to do a retreat in 3 weeks. They're like, we don't need enough time. But I was like, I'm so committed to this vision and this vibration inside of my body. 2 weeks later, 50 people sold out. 6 months, $2.7 million from freaking retreats. That is unheard of
Mm.
in 6.5 months. And but that's what commitment does. Commitment will get you into places where non-committed knows anything about. They got to stick by the rule book. So inside of the frequency of committed, when that is a part of you, it's like the universe gives you these magic glasses and it opens up a different aspect of the world. You could be looking at the same world, but you looking from a different perspective. That, yeah, it's like to see the unseen, to hear the unheard, to feel the unfelt. And that will come through the doorway of someone who's not doing commitment, who is committed. That's part of their being. That's part of their nature.
Mm, mm. You know what came through to me? This question that feels like I'm just going to speak it out loud. It's coming through, so it
Yeah.
wants to come through, which is what's your take on, for example, men who want to have children but don't want to get married?
It's the same conversation. Yeah, I truly do feel it's the same conversation. It's a committed thing. And I think people who are really good with their words will find any justification they can to make themselves feel better about how uncommitted they are.
Wow.
And women and men do it. It's like it's a game. It's the game that we play on ourselves. It's like I used to like when I was rising in my life's success, and then if my success was just enough ahead of everyone else around me, that's where I would hide. I wasn't committed to the mission and who I really am. So it would make sense why that thing would fall apart or that relationship would happen or that partnership didn't work because I didn't bring my full self to the table. I brought my uncommitted self to the table. It's a game within a game within a game, and we play that on ourselves
Hmm. This one's got a lot of teeth.
a lot.
A lot.
I'm telling
Wow.
you, like the caliber and the depths of which when I'm working, when I'm coaching with people, they're like, how the I was like, because I've been all these, I've literally been every variation of a man. And because I accept I was raised by all women. So my cheat code, this is literally my cheat code. I was raised by all women, never had a relationship with a man. My father was murdered when I was 12. So I had access. It's like the boy raised with wolves. I'll never know what it's like to be a woman, but I was raised by all women. So that's the closest thing. Men, they let me in because I look like them. But the
Mm.
part of me that has accepted his own feminine starts healing the man because they're like, man, I have so much respect in the way that you just, yeah, how your intuition is and how you just are free to express yourself. That's literally the woman inside of me that I've accepted. Now, the woman that's like, I need to be in your world. I need to learn from your programs and everything. I represent the masculine that most women have never been exposed to, and that is the healthy divine masculine that doesn't have an ulterior motive to get in your pants, regardless if I'm married or not. That becomes another mask. So most women have never felt the presence of that level of safety in the presence of another masculine man. So 94%, that's who's in my retreats. It's like I'm running an all women's retreat where the guys who get through are guys that are very similar to me. And so that their masculine starts healing when they're just in the presence of it. Me witnessing them, and then all of a sudden, it happens every time. Thank you so much. For what? For supporting me with healing the relationship with my father. Thank you so much. For what? For what? For showing me my future husband. Thank you so much. And I get it all the time. So I'm sharing this because the angle that I come from is literally the work that I do every day and what I've seen happen through women and how their natural blossoming starts to flourish 10x ways than anything that they could have worked really hard for, but while having a peaceful nervous system. That's what this whole conversation is about. Otherwise, you can get to keep the same rage, the same anger, unprocessed, and it's the same thing, and it's not working. It's literally not working.
Mm. Mm. Mm-hmm. Wow. Well, one of my last questions for you, because it's all building on each other, that we still haven't touched upon is
Okay.
children. Because you've
Yes.
spoken to me about marriage and union and commitment. And I am
Mm,
curious about the magic that
mm,
pops out when two humans decide to make another human. And from your perspective of, given everything that it's very poetic. We're like, this is the
yeah,
creation.
yeah.
Is yeah, what your thoughts are as a man, as a father, of what it means for two people who love each other to have a child. And from a masculine perspective, when is that moment where you're like, okay, I'm ready to give life? And what does that mean to you, to be a father? Did you prepare as well? So many questions.
I'm feeling into this because I truly do feel that one of the most powerful ways to change the world is for parents to be in harmony with themselves and create the spirit of harmony in the household and lead in such a way that we get to give our next generation a launching pad
Mm.
because of the domestication in the house and not pass off our trauma. So, what it means to me is it is the highest level of responsibility that I take very seriously. There is no amount of money that I could pay that would match the number one role of being an extraordinary father to the next generation of woman. And I hear all of the stories of the women and their family relationships and everything. And then I see what happens inside of Soul, who's only 2.5 years old, running circles around 6-year-olds, and how she processes. And I have my eyes closed because I'm just allowing myself to feel what I never got. You know, my mom did the best she could, but Blair and I both reparented ourselves, um, so that Soul could fly in her own unique way. Like when Blair and I argue, and we've been doing this since she was 6 weeks old, we would put her on the table right in front of us, and we would make up right in front of Soul, like create a healthy resolve in front of Soul. And Soul's 2.5, and every time she gets into a little pitter patter with her friends, she models healthy resolve the same way she sees modeled at home.
Mm.
We eat dinner together, and we don't miss dinners, because dinner and supper at the table is no longer a priority in the modern family, but it's a priority in our house. So being the restoration of what it means for a family dynamic to grow everybody in the house, to feed everybody in the house, and to be the kind of father that can be successful in every area of his life, be a devoted husband, to be a devoted dad, and not miss the moments. That is by far one of my greatest honors, and I've achieved a lot. My greatest honors is to be an example of what's missing in the modern society. As I turn on the TV and I see all of this suffering, people bickering back and forth and fighting one another, and black and white, and man and woman, trans, non-trans, and vax and no vax. Underneath all of that is a broken child who doesn't feel
Mm.
seen, heard, or like they matter. And so the screams and the cries and the yells is the only way, because most of the time they never felt safe enough to do it. So to give Soul a platform to scream her screams, to cry her deepest cries, to be frustrated and not be made wrong, it is one of the greatest honors and how I know God exists. This is, for me, what I love about being a dad, about being a parent, about being the kind of dad who understands who I used to be and knows the stories and the cries and the trauma of the women who either didn't have a dad, who didn't have a present dad, who had who abandoned him or didn't get the kind of dad that would like really be with them in their emotions. And so to have that level of consciousness and then be a conscious parent, it feels good and it gives me hope for humanity. Um, yeah, so that's how I feel about being a dad, and that's how I feel about being a parent.
That was very nourishing. I feel like I just had a very warm, nourishing meal and I was very hungry. So thank
Yeah,
you. Because underneath, I can feel the level of work you've done on yourself. Because every word you speak, it's like I can feel all the little, the strings underneath, like all the vibrations that are underneath the things you're saying. It's very concentrated medicine. So I really appreciate that. And that was, believe it or not, that was my last question for now. I could probably keep asking you questions for the next 6 hours, but for time's sake, within this context, that would be the final question that I
Perfect.
had for you. Thank you. I know I just totally put you on the hot seat.
I love
Yeah.
that. These are my favorite podcasts is when people ask me questions that nobody else asks because I've been on everybody's podcast, and a lot of people ask me the same questions. So I'm like, I'm prepared for the same questions. And you asked me different questions today, and those are always my favorite podcasts. And those are always the ones that go viral. Little clips. I don't even try for it to happen, but
Yeah.
like there's a magic that happens. There's an energy that happens. So um, yeah, I'm excited, and I just want to say thank you for the aspect of you who is asking for your audience, and then the aspect of you who is asking for yourself. Like I had noticed all of the temperatures and the variations of how you were holding the conversation. It was beautiful to feel your masculine, but as I was sharing and speaking to certain places, watch you just instantly fall and you were like melting on the call. And it's like, but this is the whole conversation. And I
Mm.
think that yeah, I think that it's beautiful that we can have these open and real dialogue. So I love the work that you're doing in the world. I love the questions that you ask. And I just want again acknowledge you for your bravery and being willing to go there and not like dancing around the fire. You're like, nah, motherfucker, I want to get burnt. Like, let's go. Let's go. Let's get these calluses.
I had a mentor once say to me, ask questions, seek answers. And anytime I have a question, I'm like, I'm gonna go for like a little truffle. You know, the dogs who go for the truffles.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not stopping until I get the truffle.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much for coming today, and just all the wisdom that you've shared is just such a. It's just I'm so excited to re-listen to this, to share this with my audience. I know that both men and women alike are going to receive so much value from this. And my last question for you is for people who are curious to learn more about you, who you are. How can they find you?
My Instagram is Garrain.Jones. My website is GarrainJones.com. And I have a book out called Change Your Mindset, Change Your Life. It's on Amazon, and it's in English and in Spanish and audiobook. And, you know, I lead powerful leaders all over the world. So I'll have masterminds coming up. And my next retreat is June 10th. I mean, June 6th through the 10th. And in Austin, Texas. There will be 100 of us, and it will be magical. There's the physical world, and there's the non-physical world, and there's the world that transcends that. That's the world that I play in. So if anybody wants some of that juice and wants to activate some deep level spiritual gifts with your Hogwarts type tribe, um, mainly women, definitely message me, and then we'll get the right fit for the right, for the right person. But I can't wait to meet any of you in person, and I can't wait to hear your stories. And Celine, I just thank you again. Thank you for your heart and your bravery to ask the questions that you ask.
Thank you. Well, that's today's episode. Thank you all for listening. Yes, do follow him. His content is absolutely amazing, and I'm really curious about your retreats as well. So thank you for being here today. I'm so happy to have you here. And if you loved the episode, as always, just take a screenshot, let us know, tag us, let us know what you loved about it. And thank you for tuning in today. All right. Thank you. God bless. Thank you, beautiful humans, for tuning in to today's episode of It's Not What You Think. If you loved what you received today, make sure to subscribe so that you don't miss out on future episodes, and leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, as it helps us reach even more amazing listeners like you. If we aren't already connected on social media, come receive even more tips and inspiration by following me on Instagram at Celine DaCosta, or visiting my website at CelineDaCosta.com. After listening to this episode, I invite you to take a few moments to reflect. What stood out to you? What were your key takeaways or breakthroughs? And if there was one action step you could take from this, what would it be? Thank you again for joining me on this journey. I'm sending you so much love, and I can't wait to connect in the next episode. Until then, keep sharing your unique gifts and living out your most magical life.